Betrayed by my own family. The night my partner revealed her truth. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. If you open that drawer, you'll hate me forever. Claire said it like she was reading it off a script, eyes shiny, hands shaking so hard the ice in her glass sounded like teeth. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and my apartment, my tiny, cheap, safe little place above a nail salon, suddenly felt like a stage someone else had built. I'm Jordan, 31, middle school social studies teacher, professional mediator of fights over pencils and TikTok drama. Loyalty is basically my religion. For the first time in my life, I thought I'd finally done it right. Stable job, stable relationship, and a woman who laughed at my dumb jokes about the Boston Tea Party like they were stand-up. We were supposed to be planning an engagement dinner for Saturday. Diane wanted it at her house because family should witness important moments. Translation: family should control the photos. I had a ring hidden in a shoebox that still smelled like the jewelry store, and a speech half written in my notes app like a teenager. My mom had been texting me "proud of you" with suspiciously perfect punctuation. My brother Mark had even sent a thumbs up, which in our family counted as a parade. I actually let myself believe the hard part, surviving them, was over. Then Claire came home late. Not traffic was bad late. Late like she'd been somewhere that required a deep breath before walking through our door. She went straight to the bathroom, turned on the sink, and cried so quietly I almost missed it. When I asked what was wrong, she didn't say work or family or even nothing. She said, "I need you to sit down." I sat. She paced. My phone buzzed with a new text from Mom. "Hope you're taking care of her tonight." That's when my stomach dropped, because Diane didn't know Claire had a rough day. Diane didn't know anything about our nights, unless someone was telling her. And if that was true, then my engagement dinner wasn't a celebration. It was a setup. Claire stared at the dresser like it was a cliff edge. "Jordan," she whispered, "your mother has been paying me since before we met." And the drawer handle clicked under her fingers like a trigger. My family has a gift for turning affection into a transaction. When I was 8, I broke a glass in the kitchen. Not on purpose. I tripped. My mom didn't ask if I was okay. She made me stand there while she swept and repeated, "Careless people cost the family." Like I was a bad investment. Mark learned early that approval was oxygen. He got straight A's, played football, smiled on command. I learned that being quiet made me invisible, and invisible was safer. The black sheep title didn't come from rebellion. It came from me not playing the same game. By high school, I was the kid Diane used as a cautionary tale at dinners. "Jordan's so sensitive," she'd sigh, like sensitivity was mold. When I got a scholarship for college, she told relatives it was because we pushed him. When I graduated, she said I finally stuck with something. And every time I tried to talk about how that felt, she'd tilt her head and use the weaponized whisper. "Are you okay, honey? You seem unstable." I moved out at 22 and never moved back. I chose a job where rules mattered and bullies got consequences. I thought distance would make me free. But Diane doesn't believe in distance. She believes in access. 2 months ago, when I told her Claire and I were serious, she insisted on meeting Claire immediately. "I'm your mother," she said. "I deserve to know the woman taking you from us." Like I was a rental car due back. At that lunch, Diane complimented Claire's sweater, asked about her childhood, and smiled like a practiced saint. Then, as Claire went to the restroom, Diane leaned in and murmured, "Be careful, Jordan. You fall hard, and you make up stories when you get scared." I laughed it off like a good, trained son. Later, Claire told me Diane's hand had squeezed her shoulder so hard it hurt. Claire said, "Your mom is intense," and I joked, "Yeah, she thinks boundaries are a myth." Now, staring at my dresser drawer, I realized I'd mistaken Diane's intensity for love. Because if my mother was paying Claire, it meant she'd never stopped managing me. And I suddenly wondered what else Diane had bought in my life. I met Claire the way people meet in their 30s, tired, distracted, and pretending we weren't lonely. It was last spring at a volunteer tutoring program my school partnered with. I was there because my principal suggested it would look good on the district newsletter. Claire was there because she worked for a nonprofit that matched kids with mentors. She walked in carrying a cardboard box of donated books, hair falling out of a messy bun, and she made a face at the box like it had personally offended her. "Whoever taped this hates children," she muttered. and I laughed so hard a seventh grader looked up like I'd malfunctioned. Claire had warmth in a way that didn't feel performative. She remembered names. She listened without scanning the room for someone more important. When I told her I taught history, she said, "Teach me one thing that would make me terrifying at trivia night." We started getting coffee after sessions, then dinner, then the kind of quiet nights I'd always assumed were for other people. Cooking pasta, trading dumb opinions, watching documentaries, and falling asleep halfway through. The first time Claire met my family, she squeezed my hand under the table like she knew it was a battlefield. Diane was all smiles. Mark was all sarcasm. Claire navigated it like she'd been trained for it, answering questions with polished, careful honesty. At the time, I admired her composure. Now, looking back, I see the tiny moments that didn't fit. Like how Claire knew Mark's wife's name before I introduced them. How she laughed a beat too late at Diane's jokes, like she'd already heard them. How she once asked, casually, "So, your mom still talks to that lawyer friend of hers?" When I'd never mentioned Diane had a lawyer friend. I remember teasing her. "Why, you planning a crime spree?" She smiled, but it was tight. "Just curious." I didn't push. I wanted peace so badly I treated curiosity like a harmless quirk. And the most suspicious thing? Claire always insisted we keep our relationship low drama. No big posts, no grand announcements. She said, "I like us. Just us." I thought it meant she was mature. Now I knew it might mean she was hiding. And that drawer in my bedroom suddenly felt like it held my entire relationship. Claire didn't open the drawer right away. She just stood there, back to me, breathing like she'd sprinted up 10 flights of stairs. "Tell me what you mean," I said, keeping my voice teacher calm. "I've de-escalated 13-year-olds with scissors. I could handle my girlfriend, right?" She shook her head. I can't. I can't do this the way I rehearsed." That word, rehearsed, made my skin prickle. Rehearsed with who? Her phone lit up on the coffee table. A number with no contact name. Just 10 digits. It rang twice, then stopped. A second later, a text popped up on the lock screen. "Unknown. Did you do it? Answer me." Claire snatched the phone so fast she nearly dropped it. "It's nothing," she said too loud. "Claire, I warned," and she flinched like my tone hurt. She walked to the window, pressed her forehead to the glass, and whispered. I tried to stop them. "Them," I echoed. She swallowed. "Your mom. Mark. Everyone." My brain kept trying to translate it into something less terrifying. Like she meant they didn't like our wedding colors, or whatever normal family nonsense people fought about. But then she said a name that didn't belong in our living room. "Rosa told me you'd be kind," Claire blurted. "My aunt. Aunt Rosa. The one family member who sent me birthday cards without guilt attached. The one Diane called dramatic, and Mark called a bad influence." "What did you just say?" I asked. Claire turned, eyes red. I met Rosa before I met you." That should have been impossible. Claire had grown up 2 states away, or at least that's what she'd told me. She'd told me her dad left. Her mom worked nights. She paid her way through college. I stood up slowly. "How?" Her mouth opened, closed. She looked at the dresser again, like the answer was inside the wood. "I'm not a random coincidence," she said. "I was introduced." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Diane, cheerful as poison. "Tomorrow, bring Claire to lunch. Just us girls and you." Claire's voice cracked. "Jordan, I didn't come into your life by accident." And then she finally pulled the drawer open. Inside the drawer was a manila envelope I'd never seen before, fat with paper. On top sat my own handwriting on a sticky note. Tax stuff. Except, I hadn't written it. The letters were too neat, too round. Claire lifted the envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. "I put it there so you'd find it if I couldn't talk." "Why would you need a backup plan to talk to your boyfriend?" I heard myself say, and my voice sounded like someone else's. Her eyes filled again. "Because your mom always has a backup plan." I grabbed the envelope, dumped it on the bed. Receipts slid out, literal receipts. A folded printout from a payment app. A stack of screenshots. A calendar page. A typed letter with a law office header. I stared at the payment app printout first. It showed transfers from a user named D. Heart to Claire's handle. Dates: April 12th, April 26th, May 10th. Amounts: $250, $250, $500. Memo lines: check-in, update, and one that made my lungs lock up: dinner at Diane's. "Tell me this is fake," I said. Claire's shoulders slumped. "It's real." I laughed once. A sharp, ugly sound. So you were spying? Reporting on me? No, she said fast. Not like that. Like what then? I snapped. Like you weren't in my bed while my mom Venmo'd you. She flinched. It started before you and I were even us. That doesn't make it better. I know. She wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. Diane found me through work. She donated to our nonprofit. She asked for someone steady to keep an eye on you because she was worried. She said you were spiraling, that you made things up when you felt abandoned. I felt my face go hot. That's her favorite lie. Claire nodded like she'd learned it by heart. She offered money. At first I said no. Then she said if I cared about doing good, I'd help keep you safe. What did you tell her? I demanded. Claire swallowed. Little things. Where you were, who you were with, what you said about your family. I told myself it was harmless. And when did you decide to date me? I asked, voice low. Her mouth trembled. I didn't decide. It just happened. I stared at the screenshots, hands shaking. My mother's number was in Claire's phone under a fake name, and the typed letter at the bottom was an NDA with my name on it. I picked up the NDA like it was contaminated. The header read, Hart and Klein, attorneys at law. Under it, bold, non-disclosure agreement. Then my name, Jordan Hart. My mother's maiden name. My stomach flipped like I'd swallowed a coin. Claire's voice went small. I never signed anything for you. They wanted me to sign it. Why is my name on it? I asked. Because it's about you, she whispered. I scanned the clauses like I was grading an essay I already hated. It talked about communications, mental health statements, and public reputation. There was even a line about, in the event of dissolution of the relationship. Like my heartbreak had a legal template. What is this? I said. A breakup contract. Claire nodded once, miserable. Diane said it was protection. She said you could get unpredictable. I laughed again, but it was hollow. I teach 12-year-olds. The wildest thing I do is laminate. Claire tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. Not because I wanted to punish her, because my body didn't know if she was safe. I kept digging through the pile. The calendar page had one entry highlighted in yellow. Saturday, 6 p.m. Hart House, engagement dinner. Under it, in Diane's handwriting, a smaller note. Claire, bring notes. My vision blurred. Bring notes. I repeated. Claire looked like she might throw up. She wanted me to write down how you were doing, what you said, if you seemed unstable. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. Sleep well. Tomorrow is important. I turned Claire's phone over and opened her messages. She didn't stop me. That somehow hurt more. There it was, a thread with a saved contact named Darla. The messages were short, clinical. Updates, questions, instructions, and payments attached like digital tips. Darla, any mention of Rosa lately? Claire, not really. He keeps distance. Darla, good. Keep him calm. At the top of the thread was the real number. I memorized it like a curse. Then I found something worse. A deleted email in Claire's trash folder, subject line, deliverables, Jordan. It had a checklist, and at the bottom, a meeting address for Friday afternoon. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't do the dramatic thing my family would later describe as proof. I told Claire, go to bed, like it was a normal night. She hesitated, then obeyed, eyes swollen. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and her phone like I was about to solve a murder. First, I screenshotted everything and emailed it to myself. Then I forwarded the deleted deliverables Jordan email to my personal account. I printed the payment app transfers because paper feels real when your world turns digital. Next, I checked dates. April 12th, the first payment, was the day Claire and I randomly bumped into each other at tutoring because she filled in last minute. April 26th was the day she invited me to dinner. May 10th was the night Diane insisted on meeting her. Check-in. Update. Dinner at Diane's. I opened my own texts with my mom and scrolled back. Every time I told Diane something vulnerable, stress at work, missing my dad, Claire would comfort me that same night with eerily perfect words, like she'd been briefed. Around 2 a.m., I pulled up my location history. The meeting address from the email was a law office downtown. My stomach did that coin flip again. I needed someone who wouldn't tell Diane I was asking questions. So I called Aunt Rosa. She answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. Jordan? Baby, it's late. Are you okay? No, I said. Rosa, did you know Claire before I did? Silence. then a sigh that sounded like a door opening. "Oh, honey," she said quietly. "I was afraid this would happen." "What would happen?" I asked. "Your mother doesn't let go of narratives," Rosa said. "She rewrites people until they fit." "Did you introduce Claire to my mom?" "I didn't," Rosa said. "But Diane came sniffing around my church fundraiser last year, asking about young women who need opportunities." My skin crawled. "Why?" Rosa's voice hardened. "Because she was building something, and you were the target." I stared at the meeting address again, pulse in my ears. "Rosa," I whispered, "I think Friday is when they plan to finish it." And Rosa said the one sentence that made me stand up. "Then you need to get to that office before they do." The next morning, I taught like my brain wasn't on fire. My students argued about whether Alexander Hamilton would have had a podcast. I nodded, smiled, and wrote primary sources on the board while my own life turned into a case file. At lunch, I sat in my car and reread the deliverables Jordan email. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even personal. It was corporate. Deliverables. Maintain relationship stability through June 15th. Document mood shifts, paranoia, and family-related agitation. Encourage reduced contact with Aunt Rosa. Secure statement threatening language if relationship dissolves. Friday, pre-meeting at Hart and Klein. Bring compiled notes. I stared at that last line until the words blurred. If relationship dissolves. They weren't preparing for my engagement dinner. They were preparing for my breakup, like they already knew it was scheduled. Claire texted me from the bedroom. "Are you okay?" Like she didn't already know the answer. I didn't reply. I called Rosa back. She didn't waste time. "Your dad left you something," she said. "Not money in a check sense. A trust. It's supposed to transfer fully to you when you're 35. "What?" I said out loud, shocking myself with the volume. "My dad had died when I was 19. Diane told me there was nothing left but bills." Rosa made a soft, angry sound. "Diane handled the paperwork. She told everyone it was settled. But I've seen documents. She's been sitting on it." My hands went cold. "Why now?" "Because you're getting married," Rosa said. "Because once you have a spouse, you ask questions. You look at paperwork. You stop being alone." I looked back at the NDA clauses about public reputation and mental health statements. My mother wasn't just monitoring me. She was building a story, one where I was too unstable to be trusted, too unreliable to challenge her, too scary for anyone to believe. The mini twist wasn't that Claire had been paid. It was that my family had a timeline, a script, and a legal endgame. And Friday's meeting wasn't about love at all. It was about control. Then Claire knocked on my car window, and I realized she'd followed me to school. Claire slid into my passenger seat like she belonged there, which was the problem. "I panicked," she said, staring straight ahead. "I didn't know where else to go." "You followed me to work," I said. "That's not panic. That's habit." Her jaw tightened. "I'm trying to fix it." "Get out," I said quietly. "I need to think." She did. No slam, no theatrics, just a woman stepping away from the life she'd helped contaminate. That afternoon, I took a sick day and drove to the county courthouse. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then I remembered the email literally told Claire to document my paranoia. At the records window, I said, "I need anything related to David Hart's estate." The clerk asked for a date of death. I gave it. She clicked around, printed a docket sheet, and slid it through the slot like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. There it was, the estate of David Hart. A trust filing. Trustee, Diane Hart. Beneficiary, Jordan Hart. My legs went watery. I paid for copies. The clerk stamped them with the kind of official ink my mom loved. One page listed disbursements. Not every detail, but enough. May 3rd, 2022, $18,000, home renovation. September 14th, 2023, $9,500, educational expenses. January 8th, 2024, $12,000, legal services. Home renovation, Diane's kitchen facelift she bragged about online. Educational expenses, Mark's back-to-school truck. Legal services, Hart and Klein, the same header on the NDA. I drove to Rosa's house with the papers shaking in my hand. She read them, lips pressed tight. "She stole from you," Rosa said. "And now she's trying to make sure you can't prove it." Then the motive snapped into focus. Diane hadn't hired a private investigator. She'd hired a witness with a wholesome job and a believable face. If I accused my mother of theft, Diane could point to Claire and say, "See, Even his partner says he's unstable. I flipped to the next page, expecting more numbers. Instead, I saw a name that made the room tilt. I saw Mark's name listed as co-trustee of my father's trust. Mark called me that night, which meant Diane had already called Mark. "Hey, little brother," he said, voice casual in the way people get right before they swing. "Mom says you've been off." "I'm tired," I said. "It's been a week." "Yeah," he chuckled. "Mom said Claire's worried. That you're spiraling again." There it was, again. Like I had a history I didn't remember. "Funny," I said. "Claire hasn't said a word to me today." Mark paused just long enough to confirm it. "She cares. She's trying to help." "What are you digging into, Jordan?" he asked, and the warmth vanished. "What makes you think I'm digging?" "Because when you get like this, you start looking for villains," he said. "Mom wants to handle it quietly." The next morning, Diane showed up at my apartment without asking. She stood in the hallway with a container of lasagna like a peace offering. "Oh, honey," she cooed, eyes scanning past me. "Claire called. She said you're not doing well." I wanted to laugh. Claire hadn't called her because Claire hadn't spoken to me. Diane's story was already written. "I'm fine," I said. Diane's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Jordan, I worry. Sometimes you don't see yourself clearly. Remember after Dad died? You were intense." "I was 19, I said. "And we helped you," she continued, voice soft, dangerous. "We protected you from choices you'd regret." I pictured the courthouse papers, the disbursements, the NDA. "Mom," I said, "where's Dad's trust?" Her face barely changed, but her pupils tightened. "Excuse me. Just curious," I said, using Claire's old word like a knife. Diane set the lasagna down harder than necessary. "Why are you asking me that?" Before I could answer, Claire stepped into the hallway behind Diane, looking like she hadn't slept. My throat clenched. She met my eyes and whispered, "Please stop. They're going to ruin you." And Diane, still smiling, added, "Let's go to lunch today, Jordan. It's important." Then Mark's car pulled up outside, right on cue. I went to that lunch. Not because I believed in lasagna diplomacy. Because if Diane thought I was compliant, she'd keep talking. In the booth, Diane sat beside me like we were a normal family. Mark sat across, legs spread, taking up space the way he always did. Claire sat next to Diane, hands folded, eyes empty. Diane sighed. "Jordan, we love you. We just want stability. You've been stressed." "I don't like secrets," I said. Mark snorted, then stopped snooping. "It's not healthy." Claire's knee bumped mine under the table, a tiny warning. Diane smiled wider. "We have a meeting Friday. Hart and Klein. Just to clear things up. It'll make you feel better." The meeting address from the email flashed in my mind. "Okay," I said, and watched relief flicker across Diane's face. On the drive home, my hands shook so badly I had to pull over. I called Rosa. "I'm going to play along," I told her. "But I need you with me." "I'm in," she said. "What do you need?" "Someone to witness," I said. "Someone Diane can't bully into silence." That afternoon, Rosa met me at a small legal aid office near the courthouse. The attorney was kind, but brutally practical. He looked at the trust paperwork, the payments, the NDA, and said, "Keep everything. Do not confront them alone. And don't sign anything, no matter how harmless it sounds." He helped me draft a request for a full trust accounting, 1 page, plain language, official tone. Then we built the trap. Friday, I'd show up early to Hart and Klein with Rosa. My phone would record from my pocket. Our state allows one-party recording, and for once that felt like a superpower. Saturday, the engagement dinner at Diane's. I'd still go. I'd still bring Claire. But I'd also bring a printed packet, payments, screenshots, courthouse filings, and the accounting request. I'd hand it over in front of everyone and ask one question. "Do you want to explain this?" If Diane lied, the paper wouldn't. That night, I put the packet in my bag and slept with my keys in my fist. Because in 2 days, my family script would meet my receipts. Friday, Rosa and I arrived at Hart and Klein 15 minutes early. Diane walked in like she owned the building. Mark followed, jaw tight. Claire trailed behind them, eyes on the floor. Diane kissed my cheek. "See? This is good. We're being proactive." Rosa stood up. "Hello, Diane." My mother's smile twitched. "Rosa, of course." We were led into a conference room. A lawyer slid papers toward me like he'd done this 1,000 times. Diane folded her hands. "Jordan, we're concerned. We've documented patterns. Emotional volatility. Fixation. Paranoia. Mark leaned forward. You've been unstable, man. Mom's trying to protect you. The lawyer tapped the page. This agreement allows your mother to continue managing the trust until you demonstrate stability. It also includes an NDA. I stared at the signature line. So you want me to sign away my rights and shut up? Diane did the wounded mother face. Jordan, listen to yourself. I slid my own folder onto the table. It made a satisfying thump. Here's the thing, I said. I brought my own paperwork. Courthouse docket. Disbursement list. Payment app transfers to Claire. Screenshots from Darla. The calendar note. Claire bring notes. The lawyer's eyebrows climbed. Diane's face went flat. Where did you get that? Public records, I said. And Claire's phone. Mark half stood. You went through her phone? Your mom paid her, I said. And you knew? Mark's eyes flicked to Diane, then away. Diane turned to Claire, voice velvet. Tell them what you told me. About Jordan's episodes. Claire's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hands shook. Claire, Diane warned softly. We had an agreement. Claire looked at me, then at Rosa. Something in her face hardened like she'd hit the end of fear. No, she said. I'm done. Claire swallowed. You paid me. You told me what to write. You told me to make him look unstable so he couldn't ask questions. Mark slammed his palm on the table. Shut up. Rosa leaned in, calm as a judge. Keep yelling, Mark. It's great for the recording. Mark froze. Diane's eyes snapped to my jacket pocket like she could see the phone. And for the first time in my life, my mother looked scared. Diane recovered faster than anyone in that room. She straightened her blazer, eyes glossy, voice trembling on command. Jordan, she said, you're recording us? That's disturbing. Mark jumped on it like a lifeline. See? Paranoid. Sneaky. This is exactly what we said. Rosa stayed still, hands folded, unimpressed. I set my phone on the table, screen up. It's not paranoia if it's documented, I said. And it's not sneaky when you're trying to make me sign away my rights. Diane dropped the mother act for half a second. We're done here, she snapped. This meeting is over. I slid the trust accounting request toward her. You'll get this by certified mail too, I said. But now you can't pretend you didn't see it. Diane didn't touch the paper. She just stared at me like she was taking inventory. Claire started crying, quiet, shaking sobs. I'm sorry, she whispered. Mark pointed at her like she was a defective product. You had one job. Claire's face tightened. Your mother told me you two already spent the money, she said. She told me Jordan would ruin your life if he found out. Mark's face went red. You don't know anything. Rosa stood. I know enough, she said. And I'll testify to it. Diane's eyes narrowed. Rosa, if you get involved, you'll regret it. Rosa smiled, sad and fierce. Honey, I regretted staying quiet for years. We left with the lawyer's card, my folder, and Claire trailing behind like a ghost. Outside, Claire grabbed my sleeve. Please, she said. Let me help you fix this. If you want to help, I said, tell Diane you're done. Block her. Now. Claire nodded and did it, hands trembling. I watched her press block contact, like it was a confession. Saturday still came. At Diane's house, the table was set like a magazine spread. Candles. Place cards. Smiling relatives I barely knew. Diane hugged me too long and whispered, I hope you don't embarrass yourself tonight. During dessert, she stood and tapped a spoon against her glass. I just want to say, she announced, eyes shining. We're here because we love Jordan, and we're worried. My blood went cold as everyone turned to look at me. I didn't stand there and defend myself at Diane's dinner table. Old Jordan would have tried, over-explained, apologized for being emotional, begged them to see him as sane. New Jordan, shaking, furious, tired of performing, pulled the folder from my bag and slid it onto the table. Since we're doing concerns, I said, here are mine. Diane's smile trembled. I didn't yell. I read dates and amounts like I was calling attendance. May 3rd, 2022, $18,000. September 14th, 2023, $9,500. January 8th, 2024, $12,000 to Hart and Klein. I looked at Mark. Any of that ring a bell? Mark stood so fast his chair scraped. Diane tried to cry. Someone filmed on their phone. Diane went syrupy. Jordan, you're having an episode. No, Rosa said from the doorway. She'd come in behind me, because of course she had. He's having receipts. I walked out before the shouting could turn into the story Diane wanted. Rosa came with me. Claire stayed inside because I told her to. If she wanted accountability, she could take the heat. The next weeks were ugly. Diane called my principal to express concern. HR asked if everything was okay. I handed them copies of the courthouse documents and said, "If anyone contacts you about me, loop me in." I scheduled therapy. I learned words like enmeshment and gaslighting that felt too clean for how wrecked I was. Rosa helped me get a P.O. box so Diane couldn't intercept mail. The attorney filed for a full trust accounting request, certified, signature required. And Claire? Claire signed a sworn statement detailing the payments, the instructions, the fake contact name, and the exact dates Diane told her to note mood shifts. She moved out without a fight. No dramatic begging, no love bombing. Just boxes and a quiet, "I understand." We didn't break up with fireworks. We put it on pause like a wound you don't touch until you can clean it properly. My rules were simple: zero contact with Diane and Mark, full transparency, individual therapy for her, and no romantic fantasy fixes. 3 months later, I signed a lease on a new place across town. New locks, new routines. My life started to feel like mine again. Then an email from Diane hit my inbox with the subject line, "Final warning." Diane's final warning email was 3 paragraphs of weaponized concern. She said she was heartbroken by my recent behavior. She said Mark and she were seeking guidance to ensure everyone's safety. She suggested I take a leave from teaching before I hurt someone with impulsive decisions. And at the end, like a cherry on top of the poison, she wrote, "If you continue harassing us about money, we will protect the family publicly." I forwarded it to my attorney with one line, documenting. That's the weird part about growing up in a family like mine. You learn to treat feelings like evidence. You keep receipts because your reality will be challenged the second it becomes inconvenient. Hard Incline's response to our accounting request was vague, defensive, and full of words like appropriate and discretion. So my attorney filed a petition. We got a court date. On the day of the hearing, Diane showed up in pearls and a grief face. Mark showed up in a suit he looked uncomfortable in. Rosa sat beside me, steady. When the judge asked for the full accounting, Diane's lawyer tried to stall. The judge didn't buy it. The court ordered disclosures and removed Diane and Mark from control while the numbers were reviewed. No handcuffs. But watching my mother lose her weapon, access, felt like breathing again. As for Claire, she did the work quietly. Therapy, a new job, full transparency. We started meeting for coffee in public places, not as a reunion, but as accountability. Some days I felt tenderness. Some days I felt nothing but the ache of being used. I stopped trying to force a neat ending. What I did force was a boundary. Diane and Mark were blocked everywhere. Phone, email, socials. I changed my emergency contact. I told my school, in writing, that any concern calls from family were part of an ongoing legal matter. My new apartment is small, but it's mine. On Sunday mornings I make coffee, open the blinds, and sit in the quiet like it's a luxury item I finally earned. If you're reading this and your family keeps helping in ways that make you feel smaller, pay attention. Real love doesn't require surveillance. Real concern doesn't come with secret payments and legal templates.